And as you can see, I didn't fold it all the way to the center. I left this little gap here. And this gap makes it easier. Oh no, I dropped Bobo. Ah, okay, hold on. I'm fine. Okay, anyway, so this just makes the next steps easier. So now that you've done that, you're gonna do it to the other side too. So again, just one of the flaps here, not both of them at the same time, just one. And again, I'm gonna do the same thing. So basically you're gonna have a narrower kite. So now this is what it'll look like. And now you're gonna flip it over. You're gonna do the same steps again. And one, to make sure that you're having it symmetrical, it's best to make sure that as you're folding it, so for example, I'm gonna fold the third flap here, that nothing's sticking out basically. So you see that this part's folded in and this part's folding in the same distance. So then I'm gonna fold this in, the other side, the fourth flap. And then at that point, we're almost done. So now, this step 13, I'm not a big fan of how they did it because it's a little confusing. It was actually very confusing what they're doing with the arrows. But they do what's called a pocket fold. But I'm just gonna do it one step at a time. So now that you have this here, you're gonna have these two thin legs and these two wings. What I'm gonna do is take one of these flaps, one layer, I'm gonna fold it over. So now you'll basically have one solid flap here. And then what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna take this one flap here, I'm gonna fold it all the way up to the tip here. So again, from this bottom tip here up to the wing. I'm gonna flip it over and I'm gonna do the same thing. We're almost there. Now we're gonna go along the center here. We're gonna fold this in half. So along this thin thing here, this is why I think it's easier to have it a little off center. So we're gonna fold that in half along with the wings here. And we're gonna do that to the other side. Like that. And then while we're pinching the center here, so pinch the bottom very, very hard, I'm gonna take one of the thin things here and I'm gonna pivot it out. So like that. And then I'm gonna flatten it. I'm gonna do the same thing to the other side. So that's one way to do it. The way this diagram did it was basically to do it all in one go. Basically what they did is just take this and they just straight up did that. They opened this up, they lifted that up, and they just did that. So after flattening it, all we have to do is make the beak. And now this beak is gonna do the inside reverse fold. So you can see it's a little familiar here, the inside reverse fold that I showed earlier. So you're gonna take one end and what you're gonna do is see that, notice how it's kind of made out of these two layers here. You're gonna open it up and you're kind of gonna flatten it like that. And as you're doing so, you're gonna kind of indent in the center. And then you're gonna squeeze it together and flatten it. So again, starting with just this, I'm gonna open it up, flatten it, and I'm gonna push it down, and then I'm gonna pinch it together. So you get a nice little crease in the center. And so that's basically all the folding done. And then to make it kind of stand up, or at least like make it a little more 3D, what I do is just take the wings and I just pull while I have my fingers kind of squashed on the bottom here. I like to pull the wings out, and that's the crane. Hi, Annalise. And yeah, that's the crane finished. Here's one I made in yellow a few days ago. Oh, you did? Nice. With a 1 centimeter paper? Oh, you're crazy. Oh my God. That's so impressive. Have you done origami before? Wow, oh, I see. Holy crap. That's awesome. That is super awesome, actually. You should definitely share or somehow, I don't know, like send a photo to Felix or something so he can see. That's super impressive. Yeah, for sure, for sure. I don't know if I've ever even made a crane with paper that small. That's crazy. So yeah, wait, let me bring some water. That's a crane. So there's like hundreds of videos out there on YouTube showing how to make an origami crane. So if I wasn't too clear with making it, you can always find out on your own on YouTube. So that's what YouTube's for. Okay. So 15 minutes. Okay. Anyway, so that's the crane. And I want to show a very quick demonstration of a modular model using a unit designed by Tomoko Fusei called the Sonobe unit. So each of these models here are done using the same type of unit. And this cube is using 6 pieces of paper. This is using 12 pieces, and this is using 30 pieces. Okay, thank you. Okay, well, this should be a very quick one compared to the crane, because the units for making these Sonobe units for modular origami is actually very, very simple. So I'm just going to demonstrate real quick how I fold it. So you don't need to follow along if you don't want to, but what I'm going to do here, fold the paper in half, unfold it. I'm going to fold this to the center and this to the center to basically fold it into fourths. Like an open drawer sort of thing. I'm going to unfold one flap, and I'm going to fold this here to this edge here. Unfold it, and then turn it 180 degrees. Do the same thing. And then with that, I'm going to fold this over, so I'm going to close it. So what these units do is use a series of pockets and tabs to assemble. So now at this point, I'm going to tuck this paper in, turn it over. I'm going to fold these papers in. And so this is the unit. That's all. So these are going to act as tabs, and this. So for the simplest one you can make, well, actually the second simplest one you can make is a 3-unit tetrahedron, which is something that looks like this. So I'm I'm gonna fold it, fold these in to kind of make the structure for each unit. Fold it this way. So now this unit is all ready to assemble. And movie magic, I made 2 more ahead of time. And now I'm going to assemble it. I'm going to take one tab, put into this pocket. You probably can't see it that well on the webcam actually, but take this, put into this pocket, take this tab, into the pocket of the third one, flip it over and do the same thing here. And that's a tetrahedron. That's what this polyhedron is called, tetrahedron. This is a cube, this is an octahedron, this is an icosahedron. So this is with 3 units. So very super simple to make. And here is, I'm gonna show off now basically. Here's a 30 unit, 1, 2. So this is made using the exact same unit that I just made earlier. This is 30 pieces, and this is made an icosahedron. And I guess I can take some time to show what other kind of models you can make. One type of model that I really like to make, I just like to make a lot of origami flowers. So this is an origami carambola. This is actually uses a 5-sided piece of paper, so a pentagon piece of paper. And this is also a very famous model, Kawasaki Rose. And what else? This is a very simple origami balloon. I think this is also probably considered a traditional model because just of how easy it is. And I also have a cute little samurai hat for Bobo. So yeah, that's all the origami I have to show you today. I also wanted to show one last thing, and this is an origami dragon by a very well-known origami artist, Satoshi Kamiya, and he's known for making a lot of mythical creatures. And yep, and this is made from 1 piece of paper, believe it or not. 1 piece of paper is made for this whole thing, and each of these scales has its own set of folds that you need to make. So this is like thousands and thousands and thousands of folds. This could take hours for you to make. Yeah, exactly. There are some YouTube videos of people attempting to make this model, and it takes them like over the course of a month or 2 months to make it. It's insane. But he is very well known. People like want to get his autographs. Whenever you go to like an origami convention, people want his autograph, basically. So yeah, that's the end of it. So that's origami. I like to do it, you know, when I'm doing schoolwork, but I'm getting all stressed out or something, and I just needed a way to take my mind off of something. And that's what I'll do on paper. And once you fold the same thing over and over and over again, you can basically do it from memory. So there's this and a lot more you can do with it. There's also different types of paper you can use. There's, you know, different sizes you can use of paper. So you can use different shapes like pentagons, hexagons. My favorite origami, probably when I was younger, probably making these 30-piece things. But now I think I also really enjoy making these roses. I think making these roses is really fun. Also, it makes a great gift for people because people know, it's like, oh my God, how the hell did you make this? This is so cool. So it's also a nice gift to make for anybody. Yeah. So any other questions anyone can ask? But that's it. Do you sell any of your origami? No, I've thought about it, and maybe I'm thinking, oh, maybe I can sell my origami for like $5 or something. But like, I don't know. I never thought about making it. It takes time to sell things. You should in webcomic artists. Yeah, but like, I don't know, and you have to work on shipping it to people and everything. You know, maybe someday if maybe when school is out over vacation and I need some money on the side, I can make some pretty origami. But I would have to use some really pretty paper too. I can't just sell any junk. But I could go on a whole other like 30-minute thing about different types of origami paper. Have I made origami paper out of non-paper material? Yes, I've done it with paper towels or like napkins before in like restaurants or not or something, just to be like cheeky. I would make like cranes out of napkins because napkins are kind of square, right? So I would make stuff out of stuff like that. There's also napkin folding, like the cloth napkin. So that's actually something that people do. If you Google napkin folding, people that actually make some really pretty stuff. I don't think I have any other origami around here. There's also some boxes you make. Teddy bear towels. Oh yeah, I've heard of those. The most difficult origami. Probably this 5-stage tessellation that I made before. I don't have it with me right now, but those tessellations I showed you earlier? It's basically making a grid, folding a grid. And I think the biggest grid I've made is just 32 by 32 squares, but it takes a long time. It's more time consuming than anything to make the hardest thing I made. So I think I got to an intermediate level, but then I went back to just making the same models over and over again, which is why I can make a bunch of stuff from memory now. But yeah, that's the hardest one I've made. I think it's in the JLC office space, actually, that green one, Ivy store. In the office space, I think that has one of the most difficult models I've ever made. Mhm. But yeah, my favorite fold. Oh my god, Felix, you already asked me this before. I don't know. Folds are cool. What are the different origami papers? So, all right. So I guess there's this one very traditional type of paper called washi paper. I don't know how it's made, but there's one type of Japanese paper that's very fibrous. Um, yeah, there's basically different methods of making different pieces of paper and different thicknesses of paper. And so there's a traditional way of making paper, there's a factory way of making paper, but washi paper is almost cloth like, I would say, almost cloth like. It's very fibrous. If you were to rip the paper, you would be able to see little threads that come out of it. And that type of paper is typically good for wet folding, I think. So different types of paper are better for different types of folding than others. So if you want to make something like this dragon here, you would probably want a very thin piece of paper, right? If you want to make something like this flower here, you might want to use thicker paper actually. But washi paper is like, and chiogami paper, there's a wide range of different varieties. And some paper is really pretty. Actually decorate the paper with a gold leaf. And that's like my favorite kind. But different textures of paper exist, and sometimes different textures can help, especially with making modular models that help kind of the origami hold its shape. So there's definitely a lot of different rabbit holes you can go down looking at different types of paper and stuff like that. Any other questions? Or here's the JLC stuff. Big model tiny. Yeah, I used to be obsessed with that in middle school too. I think just making really super super tiny models. But you should definitely share more um, stuff. I would love to see it. Okie dokie. I'm gonna stop sharing. Thank you for, I only have the crane memorized. Hey, just one thing to know. That means you can make it wherever you go. You can make it in class even if you wanted to. But yeah. Thank you everybody for stopping, following along with me. Thank you. Arigatou gozaimashita.
Uh, Thank you so much, Mimi. That was you did a really great job. That was really really cool what you did there. I think if anyone has any other questions, you can find her on our Discord channel as well and on our Facebook channel, Facebook page. Sorry. Um, Hope you guys really enjoyed that origami workshop. And I'm glad that you guys are enjoying. I hope you guys are enjoying this. This is our first time doing something like this, so there's bound to be some awkwardness and stuff like that. But I'm glad that you guys are enjoying it, and so I hope you bear with us. Next up, in a few minutes, we're gonna have a calligraphy workshop. So just that's coming up soon, and yeah, just stay tuned. Huh? Oh yeah, yeah, yeah.
Felix, you should mute yourself.
Okay, everybody. I hope can everybody see my screen? Can everybody see my screen? So we're gonna, okay, so we're gonna start our presentation now for the calligraphy portion. And before we begin, for anyone who um, is just joining us, we're gonna do a brief introduction again of JLC and who we are. So trying to. Okay, there we go. So we are the Japanese Language Club of UMass Boston. That's the University of Massachusetts in Boston. And we are a diverse group of students uh, who are language learners, culture enthusiasts, and as well as including some Japanese students as well. My name is Felix. I'm the president of Japanese Language Club. And joining me today is Yuki. Yuki, can you introduce yourself really quick?
Yeah, hi, my name is Yuki. I'm from JLC in UMass Boston, and I'm here
Mhm.
for translator.
Yes. Yes. And you're also part of the Japanese Student Association at UMass Boston as well. So like we're both collaborating on that together. Yep. And our mission, our club mission is to provide a space for students to share their interests in topics related to Japan, including the Japanese language and Japanese culture and everything that's in between. And at UMass Boston, we focus on learning the language and sharing and spreading Japanese culture as well. We collaborate a lot with different organizations and clubs within UMass Boston as well as outside of UMass Boston, and we do our best to amplify and spread awareness of Japanese culture as much as possible while also having fun. And other events that we've done on campus, we have done held a undokai, which is a Japanese field day, and we did that every year. Last year, we had a group of Japanese students join us from a school in Boston that was all Japanese students that were exchanged, and that was a lot of fun. And we've also put on other events like a matsuri, which is a Japanese festival, and where we display different games and activities as well as performers for that. And so that's a lot of fun that we put on. And we're here joining WebCon to sort of share our interest and our enthusiasm for Japanese culture with all of you. So for this hour, we're gonna talk about shodo. We're gonna do a brief background on what shodo is, how it works, what are the tools needed, what are the basic strokes for anyone who's starting out in calligraphy. Then there's gonna be a performance, maybe a little video as well, and then some Q&A after. So we're gonna just jump right in. And so the first part is, what is shodo? So shodo, uh, that is the Japanese word for calligraphy. So the first kanji means writing, that's sho, or it could also be kaku, it means to write. And then the second kanji is do, which means path or way, or like the way of doing things. So it can translate literally as like the way of writing, or if you want to be more creative, it can be translated as like the art of writing, or the art of the brush, right? Or something like that. It's basically shodo in a nutshell. It's a form of self-expression through the symbolic writing of Japanese characters and kanji and kana using a fude calligraphy brush and sumi ink. It is one of the oldest art forms and traditional art forms in Japan, among others, including ikebana, which is flower arrangement, sado, which is tea ceremony, and kodo, which is incense appreciation. And a little brief background on what is shodo. So it was introduced to Japan in the around the 5th century from China. So that was around the Heian era, about over 1,000 years ago. And shodo is more than just writing kanji. It is connected. It has a lot of connections between Zen Buddhism and Buddhist philosophy as well. So it's an art form and it's an aesthetic, but it's also a discipline that can take years to master, right? And it's also can also serve as a meditative practice that focuses on the connection of mind and body and spirit, which is taken from Buddhist philosophy. And and also as a meditative practice for anyone who is dealing with a lot of stress right now during the pandemic, it can serve as a great way to sort of relieve stress and like relax as well. Even just watching videos of people performing calligraphy can be very relaxing and satisfying. It can serve kind of like a ASMR type thing as well. So it's definitely a great pastime as well. Now, shodo is so popular in Japan that most people have had some type of background in calligraphy that they studied in school. And a basic form of calligraphy that they study in school is usually shuji, which is it's a form of calligraphy that focuses more on penmanship, where they focus on teaching kids the right way to write kanji, which is the Japanese characters, right? And to make sure that they're written in a way that's like balanced and like makes sense and like they got the stroke orders correctly and whatnot. But there's also extracurricular activities like after school clubs as well, where kids can learn the more artistic form of calligraphy. And there's also even special calligraphy schools where people can train to become artists in calligraphy as well. And you can see calligraphy in a lot of different places in Japanese culture nowadays. You can see it in advertisements, in signs. You can see it on products, on labels. It's considered very aesthetic to have them on there. You can see it at art gallery exhibitions, and there's lots of different competitions as well. Many high school students compete in different competitions in regional within Japan, where they show off their artwork. There's also live performances. There's a type of calligraphy that's called performance shodo, where the artist will perform in, it's almost ceremonial like, where there's going to be music and dancing, and the artist is performing on a large canvas that where they're painting with a larger brush and a lot more paint. And there's even competitions where different teams compete with each other. And the most famous one being the Shodo Koshien, where high school teams compete and they draw on a large canvas with a large brush the size of like a mop, drawing different, writing and drawing different kanji to compete with each other. And there's even movies about shodo as well. Like there's different, like one example is this one, like Shodo Girls. It's about a group of girls in high school that are competing at the Shodo Koshien. And you should check it out if you haven't seen it already. Now, there's different styles of calligraphy if you're just starting out and you want to learn about how that works. So the oldest style is Tensho style, which is the seal script. That's the first one you see there on your left. That one you can see it's more rounded, it's more like squiggly kind of, and this one is mostly used on when people stamp the official stamps on on artwork, on calligraphy artwork, as well as the seals, you know, those little wax seals where you seal letters or scrolls. They would seal them in wax and they would stamp it with kanji, something that has kanji carved in tensho style. Then there's racial style, which is the clerical script, and that one is more like rigid, like horizontal and vertical lines. That's usually used more for record keeping. You don't see it that often nowadays. But then the next one, Kaisho style, that is called also known as block script. That is the one that is most common and is typically seen throughout Japan in textbooks and stuff like that. That's the one that students practice in school when they're trying to learn the proper way to write kanji. It's definitely often practiced in calligraphy as well. But the next two are the ones that are more creative that you'll see is gyosho, which is semi-cursive script. Is the kanji for it technically can mean like moving script, moving writing. So it's like it's more fluid. It's semi-cursive as you can see it, and it has that aesthetic, but you can still read the kanji. Then there's social style, the last one here, which is literally it means grass script. So it's like it looks like blades of grass moving in the wind. It's a lot more fluid, and it is the one that's considered most aesthetic, but also the hardest to read, even for native Japanese speakers. Now, if you're going to start out learning calligraphy, you have to know the right tools for the to use, right? So that's why it's important to get those tools. And so for anyone who wants to start out but not sure what to use, you really only need four basic tools, and these are the first one is the brush, obviously, called a fude. And that brush is usually made, traditionally, it's made of bamboo, and the tip is usually made of horsehair. And the next you'll need, if you're doing traditional style, you'll need a sumi, which is a solid ink stick, and a suzuri, which is an ink stone that you use to grind the ink stick on that, as well as obviously the paper that you'll need for calligraphy, the specially made hanshi, which is usually mulberry or rice paper. And those four are the main tools that you would need. They're called the Bumbo Shiho, or the four treasures of the study. But obviously, there's other tools that you can use to help you with when you're learning or anything like that. The so one tool would be the shitsajiki, which is a cloth under that you place under the paper to make sure it doesn't bleed all over the table. Then there's the bunshin, which is a paperweight that you use to keep the paper in place. And then there's an in, which is it's a red seal, red ink seal that you use to sign the paper, sign your artwork. So you don't sign with like a signature. You usually sign with like a stamped red seal to signify that you're the one who created this artwork. And for the next part, we're gonna introduce who our calligraphy artist is for this portion, and I'm gonna let her briefly introduce herself. She's probably gonna speak in Japanese, and we'll just translate into English. So, Heidi, if you wanna just tell everyone who you are.
大丈夫。Perfect.
自己紹介
自己紹介
うん。
あ、
どうぞ。
Okay, so my name is Ari. I'm happy to meet you guys. Please enjoy. Thank you.
Okay, awesome. All right. And a little information about Airi for those of us, for anyone. She's from Kagoshima, Japan. That's on the island of Kyushu. She's a university student and she's a licensed instructor and calligraphy artist. She has been practicing since she's been 4 years old. She's majoring in space ethics and she studied abroad in Germany. She became licensed instructor of calligraphy at age 20, the youngest of the association that she's a part of. And she's performed in other countries. She's been featured in many radio and TV shows as well as newspapers. And she really wants her hope is to make sure that her love for calligraphy transcends time and space and people can connect people together. And I think next, before we continue, we're gonna play a little video. So Yuki, if you're ready for that, we're gonna play a video of Aidi's live performance at an event that she made. Whenever you're ready. If you want to share your screen. Yuki, you're muted.
Okay. Can you guys see it?
Yes, we can see it.
So this is a shadow performance by Ivy. So I'm just gonna play this.
Okay. 書道とは墨を使い、筆を使い、漢字や仮名文字を芸術的に手書きする方法のことを言います。
So shadow is style using brush and paper to express artist emotion and feeling.
手書き文字の芸術です。
This is a handwriting Japanese art.
And 優れた書道はその美しさだけでなく、リズムや書道家の性質、そしてその感情までも表現します。
Good shadow artists can express their feeling and attitude and their creativity. So,
こちらは書道パフォーマンスのビデオです。ご覧のように袴を着て観客の前で大きな和紙に書いています。
this video is an example of performance style shodo. And as you can see, Ali is wearing hakama and she's painting calligraphy on a large canvas in front of a crowd.
このパフォーマンスは日本の山口県の百貨店で開催されたスタートアップや起業家支援のためのコアワーキングスペースのオープニングセレモニーの様子です。
So this particular performance was part of the grand opening of a shared workspace at a mall in Yamaguchi Prefecture in Japan.
書いている舞台という言葉はこのイベント、そしてコアワーキングスペースのテーマであり、さまざまなキャリアを持つ人やアイデアのコラボレーションがこの舞台から生まれるようにとの思いが込められています。
So the phrase she's painting, 舞台, which roughly translated to stage, as if fit the theme of the event, which focuses on creating space for community and collaboration, as well as a dynamic atmosphere that inspires productivity.
これが書道がただの趣味にとどまらないゆえんでしょ
This is an example of how Shodo is more than just a hobby.
う。このような書道パフォーマンスは記念すべき日やイベントに用いられます。私はこれまでの書道を通して、国際交流を通して人々が言葉や文化の壁を越えてつながれることを信じています。
It can be used to commemorate special events and moments in time. In her opinion, Ali believes that it can connect people across different background and language.
創作活動のコンセプトは愛であり、書道パフォーマンスを通して時空と宇宙を超越して愛の力へ
She hopes that through her shadow artwork, she can communicate the power of love and peace in a way that transcends time, space, and the universe.
で、私のミッション、使命は、アーティストワークを通じて、人間がいかに宇宙をいじめてきたか、そしてきれいな宇宙を守るべきだと伝えることです。私はこれまでの経験から書道を通して人と人とが言語や国籍を超えて心がつながれることを証明してきました。アーティストワークを通して宇宙の平和に貢献したいと願っています。
And through those artworks, she wants to tell the world how humans bring care to the universe and that we should protect the universe. From her experience, she has proved through calligraphy that people can connect with each other across languages and nationalities. She loves to contribute to the peace of the universe through her artworks. And the styles that she used in this performance is social style, which Felix mentioned in the presentation. And compared to Kaisho style, which is common proper style, because social styles allows artists to express in their ways they want to, it can reflect an artist's feeling and creativity more, as you can see. And right now she's painting her name on the left side. Yep.
All right, thank you for that. That was really awesome. Thank you. So what you just saw was a video that Heidi really wanted to share of her doing the performance style show, which is the one where they have the large canvas and the large brush and are doing it in a very ceremonial style for events. And it was really great hearing about that and how that works. Now we're gonna get into the uh, the uh, the the learning side of how to do calligraphy in Japanese. But before we start, There's a few things that you have to keep in mind if you're anyone who's like starting out and wants to learn about how to do calligraphy. A few things you have to keep in mind. So one, you have to remember to sit up straight without leaning. If you're going to do calligraphy, you have to make sure that you're doing it at a desk, ideally, and with a chair, and you're sitting up straight with good posture. When you're holding the brush, you have to make sure you hold it in a particular way, ideally with your at least three fingers midway between the brush, and that you're holding it upright in a almost like a 90-degree angle. And when you're writing with the calligraphy brush, you're not just moving your wrist, you're moving your whole arm. Your whole arm goes with it as well. Uh, Also, you have to make sure that you concentrate and be fluid in your execution. You have to vary between your lines, like so you'll have thicker lines, strong lines, and also delicate, thin lines as well. And also remember to follow through because in calligraphy, unlike other types of art, once you make a stroke on the paper with your brush, you can't go back and fix it. Like that stroke is done, so you have to make sure you follow through and think about what you're doing. And if you make a mistake, you just grab a new paper and you start over. That's how that traditionally works. Using calligraphy to do so with harmony and balance and make sure that like the calligraphy is in balance. And if you are doing the traditional style of calligraphy using a ink stick and an ink stone, you'd have to prepare the ink as well. So the way that would work is that you would add water to the ink stone, the suzuri, as you can see here, and then you would take the ink stick, the sumi, and you would grind it onto the water until it starts to dissolve into the water, and it would just then run into the well part of the inkstone, and you would use that to then dip your brush into and start writing. So the next portion, what we're gonna do is we're gonna teach you uh, the basic the basic strokes in how to do calligraphy. Now, for those of you who maybe you're not familiar with Japanese, maybe you don't know any kanji or anything like that, um, it really isn't too difficult because basically you can break down all kanji or most Japanese characters to these 8 basic strokes that you see here. And what we're going to go through is we're going to go through each one by one, and I'm gonna show you how that looks, and then Idi's gonna demonstrate in her on her screen as well how that works. Um, all right, and so the first stroke that we will do is the 10, which is the dot. Sorry, there we go, if anyone can see my screen. So it's called a dot, but it's not like a typical dot that you would think of here in the West. It's like a calligraphy dot, which is basically you're putting pressure down on paper and you're creating this almost pointed teardrop or water droplet type shape with your brush. And that's called a 10. And there's different, it can come in different sizes depending on the type of kanji that you do, but that's how it usually does. And we're gonna have Heidi show us in just a second. Let me just stop sharing and switch over. And Heidi, if you wanna demonstrate for us how to do 10. As you can see, she's got her ink stick and her ink in the ink stone, and she's putting pressure on the paper. She's going down a little bit to get that shape correctly. And there you go. That's how you do the 10, the first type of stroke. And just do it one more time for anyone who's following along with us. There we go. That was beautiful. So that's the first stroke. That's called the dot or the 10 in Japanese. The next stroke that we're going to do is I'm going to share my screen again. Can everyone see my screen? Okay, and so the next step that we're going to do, the next stroke, is the horizontal stroke or the yokukaku. And so the way that this one works is you're going to combine the dot that you just learned, and then you're gonna cross horizontally to the right, and you're gonna end with another dot. So you make a dot, you sweep to the right, and then you end with another dot. So we're gonna show that to you right now. Heidi, if you could. So she's taking her brush, she's got some ink there, she's going down, she's creating a dot on the paper, and then she's turning her brush slightly as she goes horizontally. And then at the end, she's gonna turn her brush a little pressure up to make the little dot as well. And there you go. That's how you do the horizontal, the yokukaku. Just gonna do it one more time. Starting with the dot and then going horizontally and doing another dot at the end by twisting your brush a little bit, applying a little pressure. And there you go. That's the yokukaku, the horizontal line. And now I'm gonna switch back and let me know if anyone's having any trouble. The next stroke that you would learn is the vertical stroke, the tatekaku, and it's very similar to the horizontal line. This time you're gonna go vertically instead of horizontally, obviously. So you're gonna start with the dot at the top, and you're gonna bring your brush downward and end up with another dot. And so we're gonna show you that right now. So as going down with the brush, and she's going down, she started with a dot, and she ends with a dot as well. And one more time, she starts with that angled dot stroke, and then she's gonna go down and swivels her brush a little bit to create that downward stroke like that. Okay, and that's how you do the basic tatekaku, the vertical stroke. Okay, hopefully that was well enough for you guys to follow along. And the next stroke that we're gonna teach you guys is the hane, or the hook stroke. So this one is similar to the vertical stroke, except this time, instead of ending with a dot, what you're gonna do is you're gonna trail off when you get to the bottom, you're gonna turn the brush slightly, and you're gonna almost do like a check mark going up towards the left, and that creates this little hook-like shape at the end. And yeah, we're gonna have ID demonstrate that. That takes a little bit of practice. So pretend like you're doing the vertical stroke, right? And start with a dot, and you're going down. And if you look at her brush, she's doing even pressure, and then when she gets down, she's gonna lift her brush and do this almost like a check mark thing there towards the upper left. And one more time, she starts with a dot, she turns her brush slightly, she's going down, and then she's turning her brush and doing a slight check as she lifts her brush and creates that shape there. Okay, and that's how you do the hook stroke. Now, the next stroke that we're gonna learn, hopefully everyone's following along, we're gonna combine some of the ones that you learned earlier, and we're gonna do the folding stroke, or the ore. And if you guys know, if I were here earlier in the earlier demonstration, the ore comes from, similar to the kanji in origami. This combines the horizontal stroke and the vertical stroke to create this folded or corner type stroke. You start with a dot, then you go horizontally to the right, and then you create another dot there where you swivel and you change directions and you go downwards. And sometimes the folding stroke can end with a hook, a hane stroke as well, but it can also end on just a dot as well, depending on the kanji that you're writing. So, and so ID now will demonstrate how to do that stroke. So she starts with a dot, she goes horizontally, She does another dot there, and now she's gonna go downwards. And she ends there. And that's the ore, the folding stroke. And one more time. And she turns her brush slightly, and she presses down to create that shape there. And then she goes downwards, and there we go. That's how you do the folding stroke. All right. Awesome. Okay, now the next stroke that we're gonna do here is it's gonna be a little bit more challenging. We're gonna do the sweeps. So the first one is the left sweep, or the hidari harai or hidari barai. And you start here with a dot as usual, and you're gonna move your brush diagonally to the bottom left, except this time as you're moving downwards, you're gonna lift your brush and sort of apply less pressure to create that tapered pointy shape there. And so ID will demonstrate how to do that. So she creates a dot, and then as you notice, she's applying pressure and she's lifting her brush, applying less pressure, and it creates that sort of pointed shape there. And one more time. She applies pressure on the paper, creating that dot shape stroke, and then she moves diagonally down to the left, lifting off like that. And that's how you do the hidari barai, or the left sweep. Stroke that we're going to show you here, the next of the 8 basic strokes, is this one is called sukui. It goes by another name as well sometimes, but it's known as the scoop, or even like the check mark stroke, because it looks similar to a check mark. And what you do here is it's the opposite of the one that you just learned. Here you start with a dot as well, but this time instead of going downwards to the left, you're going to go upwards diagonally to the right corner. And you're going to do the same thing where you sweep your brush upwards and apply less pressure to create that pointed stroke look. And so ID will demonstrate it for us now. So this stroke is called the sukui, and as you know, she's doing the dot stroke there, and then she's going upwards and like that, almost like a check mark. And one more time. Just like that. It's very cool. Now, the next stroke that we're gonna teach you guys, and this one's probably the most challenging one if you're beginning, if you're a beginner in calligraphy. This is called the right sweep, the migi harai or migi barai. And the way this one starts, so there's 3 steps. First, you start with a small dot here at the top. And as you're going down, you're going to sweep your brush downwards diagonally to the right, sweeping it down. And as you go down, you're going to apply more pressure so that the line gets thicker up until you get to a point where you stop, and then you switch directions and you go horizontally. And as you're going horizontally, you're going to lift your brush up and applying less pressure so it has that pointed ends there. So it's almost like a triangle shape there. So this is called the migi barai, and we're going to have ID demonstrate to us how that looks. So she starts with the dot, and she's sweeping down towards the right. And then here you can see her, she's changing directions, going horizontally, and just like that. And one more time. See her doing the stroke, she's putting more pressure, the line gets thicker, and then when it goes horizontally, the lines get thinner again. So it almost looks like a little bit like a triangle and it takes some practice to get that one right. But that's how you do the right sweep, the migi barai.